All right, we're good.
Okay. Hello, my beautiful people. This is Anna Sharif again. So today I have with me a guest, who is going to introduce himself, and we're going to talk about the unrest that is going on in DRC, that is the Democratic Republic of Congo, and Rwanda, the affiliations with Rwanda and DRC. So um, my guest is going to introduce himself and what he does, his affiliations to DRC, and then I have a few questions for him. Hi, Neil, how are you?
I'm doing well. Thank you, Anna. Thank you for having me. So yeah, my name is Nils Kinuani. I'm from DRC originally, and then I am involved with a number of organizations that um, advocate or fight for peace and stability in the Democratic Republic of the Congo, in the DRC. I'm happy to be here to discuss. So I'm involved with the Congolese community of Washington metropolitan area, um, and then involved with the Congo Democratic Initiatives, a nonprofit organization that also advocate for peace and stability in the DRC. So happy to be here, and then happy to have this discussion.
I'm happy to have you, Neil. So, as we all know, there is an unrest going on in DRC for a while now, for some decades. And Neil is going to shed some light on it for us, exactly what's going on and the progress, what has been going on, what is going on actually right now, currently, the situation. Neil needs to tell us exactly what the community is doing or what they are doing to combat these particular issues that is going on. So, Neil, I have a couple of questions for you. The first one is, how did the Hutu refugees from Rwanda end up in DRC in the aftermath of the 1994 genocide?
Yes, that's a very important question, Anna, because as our listeners or viewers know, and as you know, the current conflict, the armed conflict or the war in the DRC, started in the 1990s, right after the genocide, right? So as you know, we had the genocide in Rwanda in 1994, right? And if I even want to go a little further than that, you know, there is before the genocide, and what really led to the genocide is the tension between the two tribes of Rwanda, the Tutsi and the Hutus. So initially, the Hutus were in power, were the majority in Rwanda before the genocide, as you know, and that was when President Habyarimana was in power. It was Hutu. So the Tutsi during President Habyarimana's term or presidency, they felt discriminated against or better marginalized. So they in the beginning of the 1990s, they started negotiations with President Habyarimana so that they can also get government positions. They can be a little more influential in Rwanda. However, that did not really that did not those attempts were not successful because President Habyarimana failed to keep his promises as far as having a more inclusive government. Of course, that will include or have the Tutsis. And then so 1994, President Habyarimana is assassinated.
Mm-hmm.
In it was a plane crash, and then the Hutu regime quickly pointed fingers to the Tutsis as the perpetrator of that assassination and started going after them. And then, as you know, there was intervention from some Western countries coming to the rescue of the Tutsis, and you know, in the twist of events,
Mm-hmm.
the Tutsis prevailed, although they were considered the minority. So the Tutsi prevailed, and then they were ultimately able to seize power in Rwanda. So and then so the Hutus find themselves in a position of weakness, right? Like they, there was this tension between the two tribes, and now the Tutsis prevail. And then of course they were now going after the Hutus, and the Hutus had to flee for safety, finding refuge. And then the most convenient destination was a neighboring country, right? Like, because when you look at the map, Congo and the DRC and Rwanda, they share the border, and it's very close. So that proximity led or made it easier for the Hutus to flee to the DRC. So to answer your question, that is how the Hutu refugees ended up in the DRC. So yes, we can continue.
So it's just like when you talk about territorial boundaries, right? It's just like Sierra Leone sharing border with Liberia and Guinea. And when Liberia War broke out, the refugees came to Sierra Leone, and the aftermath of that was us having our own war, because that entered into Sierra Leone as well. So I believe that is how the Hutus end up in Congo, because I have a little idea of the war in Rwanda, because it's a history that everybody remembers now, where Hutus were murdered by the Tutsis. And to this point, I believe, based on what report from the news media, that the Hutus are still being captured from the DRC. But let me continue with my other question. The other question I have for you is, how and when did the war start in Eastern DRC, Democratic Republic of Congo, after the migration of the Hutu refugees? How exactly did that start?
Yeah, that's also a good question, Anna. So as I was explaining, so now the Hutus migrated into DRC. So now the problem is that most of them entered the DRC with weapons, arms. And that was very problematic, right? Because and they entered with weapons and guns in a very uncontrolled way. So it's not like you go to the border and then you have to register all your belongings, your weapons and everything. So it was not like that, right? Like it was just a big influx, uncontrolled influx of those Hutus in the Congo with weapons. So when they entered Congo with weapons, and also Congo was not really receptive to this idea. It was, the Congolese government was a little reluctant, but of course there was some international pressure on the DRC to accept those refugees. And then it was done in a very not in a very organized way. And then so that's how the Hutu refugees ended up with arms, weapons inside the DRC. So now the Tutsi regime, as I said, was in power, led by President Mr. Kagame. He was vice president at the time, and I think the president was Mr. Bizimungu. So what happened is that when they entered with arms, Mr. Kagame and the Tutsi regime became anxious, right? That these people, they're just nearby, right? Like they can come back, the Hutu refugees with arms, they can organize themselves and come back and retaliate, right? So Mr. Kagame and the Tutsi regime wanted to make sure that the Hutus are neutralized, fully neutralized, to the point where they do not pose any threat to the new Tutsi regime. Yes.
Was it before he became president, though?
Yes. That was before, because he became president around 2000. But but he was the leader of the regime.
The regime at the time.
So it just did not take that, leading. Well, he had a leading role, but it was not, it was not really the figure at that point, the face of that that movement. But so as I was explaining, so now the Tutsi regime became anxious, right? Because the Hutus are just next door. They can come in, they can come back anytime, and then try to rise against the Tutsi regime. So it has to make sure that they're fully neutralized, right? And that means that you have to go, inside the DRC and then neutralize them, right? Like, and that's something that, under international law that cannot be done. You just can't walk into your neighbor's country and then just neutralize.
That is what I want to talk about. Like, I want to say this, territorial integrity matters. Right. You cannot just go into somebody else's territory and then invade and start taking people out of there, especially those who went to seek refuge. So how is the international community really relating or responding to this particular issue? The Rwandan government going into DRC, taking the Hutu refugees and bringing them back. God only knows what happens to them when they go back to Rwanda. We don't know. But how is international communities reacting to this particular situation?
Yes, Anna. So very quickly before we get to that, so as I was explaining, so there's you mentioned a very good point about territorial integrity, right? So this is Rwanda did over the years, since like they can't under international law, they can't just enter the DRC and then conduct these operations. So what they did, they started using rebels to do, I want to say, to do the dirty work for them, right? Like to neutralize the Hutu. So that's why in 19, that's also to answer your question.
Before you go to 1990, what the statement you want to make, who is using the rebels though to go into DRC?
Rwanda, as I said, Rwanda, yeah. They're using proxies. They're using those rebels as proxies to go into the DRC, because most of those rebel groups, or some of them are also based, within the border, right, around the border. So they're using them to go ahead and conduct operations. Biggest operation, neutralize the Hutus. Make sure that they don't come back. They don't come back and try to rise or to retaliate.
So it's fear of retaliation. That's why Rwanda government is doing this.
Right.
But let me interject a little bit.
Right.
Them doing are they going to be able to neutralize all of these refugees though? And most refugees probably we know will never take arms. So in that instance, meaning they're killing innocent people or they are neutralizing innocent civilians as well. So to me, this is like what would I say, a crime against humanity?
Right. Yeah, yes, Anna. That's, as you said it perfectly. So and then they were able to actually somehow do that, neutralize. But then they started, so when they started using rebels and armed groups, they started to really go after the Hutus and kill them. But in doing that, they're also killing innocent Congolese civilians, right?
Correct.
And then Anna, there is a very interesting UN report that I want our viewers to look at. It's called the UN Mapping Project Report.
Okay.
That report was published in 2003, believe 2003, and that report really gives a good account of a good narrative of those crimes that were committed in the DRC between 1993, 1994, when the genocide started, up until early 2000. So that's a very good report. that shows how the rebel groups, starting with the rebel groups that was led by President Laurent Kabila that overthrew Mobutu. So using those rebels group to kill the refugees, the Hutu refugees, and killing the Congolese people.
Okay. All right, let's move on to my next question that I have for you. So what role did the 1997 coup, which overthrew President Mobutu, play in this war?
Right, yeah. Another good question. So, you know, as I said, so Rwanda, since 1994, 1996, when the Tutsi regime took power, so they started using rebel. So they used, one of the first group that they used was called the AFDL, the Alliance of Democratic Forces for the Liberation of Congo.
Oh, yeah.
And that was led by President Laurent Kabila, not the second Kabila, the first Kabila.
First Kabila, yeah.
Laurent Kabila. So they used them to go ahead and if you read the UN reports, President Laurent Kabila was benefited a lot from Rwandan support, and of course that ultimately led to the removal of President Mobutu from power, and now Rwanda hope to have a friendly government in the DRC because as I told you, President Mobutu was reluctant to accept the Hutu refugees in the first place. He was reluctant to really allow Rwanda to really use the DRC as a refugee camp, right? Like, but so Rwanda and the Tutsi regime we're talking about here, they wanted to make sure that they have a friendly government in the DRC, a friendly government that will be able to accept or agree to whatever operations that they want to run or conduct in the DRC. So that's ultimately, so that was the role, that was the, I want to say the purpose of Rwandan support to the FDL rebel group.
Okay. So currently, do they have the friendly presidency in Congo as we speak now?
Yeah, so as we speak, so this has evolved throughout the years. So they had so we had President Laurent Kabila in power. Then what happened? I don't want to dwell too much on history here, but President Laurent Kabila, then now the Rwandans are there with him because they're supporting him. But now they started asking for just more than what they initially agreed upon. Okay. Right? Like President Laurent Kabila, if you watch most of his interviews, so he kept saying that the Rwandans were unrealistic. The Tutsi regime that supported them was unrealistic in terms of, like, you know, what they were asking for. They were asking for control over certain territories in the DRC. They were asking for too much. And then President Laurent Kabila was not agreeing to that. And then within a year of him taking power, he started having conflict with the Tutsi regime, and then essentially he told the people from the Tutsi regime, all the Rwandans that supported him during his quest for power, to leave the DRC, right? And then that conflict ultimately led to his assassination in 2001. And now Joseph Kabila took power. Again, with Joseph Kabila, his position was kind of ambivalent because we didn't really, so we couldn't really say for certain, like, what was, he never made it clear his stance
his intention.
to the Rwanda. Yeah, he never made it clear. But we all know that during that time, the Congolese government signed so many peace agreement with the rebels groups. But anyways, so to answer your question, Rwanda in 1997, Rwanda wanted to put in place in the DRC a government that will be friendly to them.
Okay.
Yeah.
So with that said, how is the DRC government handling the war currently? How is it?
Yeah. So the DRC government seems to be overwhelmed because this is and maybe I should have said this earlier, Anna. This is one of the deadliest. The Congo War is one of the deadliest conflicts in modern history, right? Like we're talking about over 5 million people that have lost their lives during this conflict, and that's the deadliest since World War II. If you look at the numbers, so the conflict has really and it has scaled throughout the region. So as far as the Congolese government handling the situation, we have seen throughout the years that the Congolese government had to negotiate with the rebel groups. Sometimes they would try to negotiate directly with Rwanda because we know, and this is not just Congolese or me saying this or Congolese people saying this, that the Rwandans are using rebels, they're supporting rebels. No, like this is very well documented by the United Nations. There are countless, so many United Nations report showing Rwandan support to the rebels. So the way that the DRC government and the last one, the most recent report, since it's very important, the most recent report is actually from August, was released in August 2022, 2 months ago, saying that the confirming that Rwandans and the President Kagame regime supporting the rebels. So the way that the Congolese government has been handling this is through negotiations. We have seen over the years that the Congolese government really has not been able to just neutralize, to fight and to fight and neutralize the rebels. So they have to negotiate with the rebels, and part of the negotiation with the agreement that they're signing is integrating those rebel groups inside the army, which creates another host of issues, right? Because those rebels group, they're no loyal to the Congo, right? Like they're being supported and somehow sent by Rwandans, right? So like, when they join the army, it's a way for Rwanda to infiltrate our army, right? So like those people acting as spies, they're not really loyal to the DRC. So yeah, but to answer your question, the DRC government has not been able to confront the rebels. It's mostly through negotiations.
Okay, so is it because of weaponry? Is it because of military might? Is that why the Congolese are unable to confront the Rwandan government?
The rebels, yeah, part of it. And this is very important because it's about the national responsibility, the Congolese government's responsibility. The Congolese government's responsibility. They have not been able to really fulfill their responsibility in terms of territorial, making sure that the territorial integrity is respected, and protected. So part of that, Anna, is corruption, is bad governance. All the issues that you see in the news, corruption, bad government, and also the infiltration that I was talking about. The Rwandans, those rebels integrating our army, also plays a role, because when they integrate the army, they just bring disorder, chaos in the army, because
Correct.
sometimes they're not loyal to the DRC.
The DRC.
So yeah.
That
So
is
yeah,
correct though. Yeah. It's just like if let's say when the war was going on in Sierra Leone, and we bring the Liberian rebels and integrate them into our military, what do you expect? It's gonna cause chaos, and which is what I believe is happening right now in the DRC.
Yeah, exactly. Corruption also and bad governance. Those are also the key factors to take into consideration.
You know, corruption is the motto for African for African government, you know, so that we know. And we know for a fact that that is one of the contributing factors that leads to all this conflict in our countries, in our regions, and all that. My other question I have for you, Neil, is that do we have data on casualties, including the death toll of this war? How many people have died? Because I was reading a report recently when the war started in DRC. When it first started, it says 800,000. But now you are telling me there are more data and more death toll. Can you please shed light on that for us?
Yes, Anna. You know, part of the bad governance in Congo is that, you know, the government itself, the DRC government itself, does not have the data. When you go, like the data that I'm telling you now comes from, for the most part, comes from international organizations, right? Like and non-profit organizations, and that's problematic, right? Like, you know, for
exactly.
the
Congolese, before you go further, I was going to ask you how come DRC is unable to have data? Don't they have the let me say the machinery to use to do that? Like, you know, don't they have the power to do so?
Well, you know, with bad governance, you know, those mechanisms are not in place, you know, to track casualties, people that are dying. That the Congolese government does not have those mechanisms, and that's problematic. The data that I'm giving you now, you know, come from international organizations, right? Like, and it's hard because if you don't have data, then it's hard for you to really you know, to really
how many
claim
of the people are
right?
dying?
Yeah. All we know is that, you know, there are people dying every day, and maybe we can talk about this later. Those rebel groups. So what they usually do, Anna, they usually come on and off, right? Like when they can start conflict, they can be killing people, and then you take them, they go to negotiations, and for a period of time they will cease the fighting on the ground. You know, they will be, especially when they integrate the army for a period of time, you know, they will go, you know, calm and without fighting. But then after that period of time, then they reappeared. They reappear, like now, right? Like, you know, they just reappeared again in as we speak now. They've taken a few towns in the DRC. So there are actually 2 to 3 towns that are being occupied by rebels. So it's just like they go through phases, right? Like, you know, they will sign and what usually
a peace treaty, and then the next thing you know, something happens somewhere and they want to come back and start fighting.
Yes. And also, Anna, what's also problematic here is that when they sign those peace agreements with the DRC government does not uphold the agreement most of the time, because they just realize that it's unrealistic, right? Like those rebels will be asking for government positions, they will be asking for money, there's just a whole a number of things that they will be asking. And then when it comes to when it's time to implement the peace agreement, then the DRC government realizes that, oh wow, this was too much. Well, we can get you in the army, but we can't give you all these government positions, right? So like, and then guess what? They will go back to the ground and start fighting, right? Like, and then just start attacking people, right?
Yeah.
So yeah.
To me, integrating them into the army, it's like a recipe for disaster, for a coup.
Right.
To me, that is what I believe, because you are a rebel and now you want to infiltrate the military. That is a recipe for a coup. It's a recipe for disaster. For anyone.
Right. Yeah. That's why we keep having the disaster. That's why it's a cycle now.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You know, and I know most of these rebels are coming from Rwanda. So does Rwanda actually influence the Congolese politics? If so, how and what role is Rwanda playing in the war?
Yes. So this started in the 1997 coup, right? Like how Rwanda supported the rebel group that was led by President Laurent Kabila, well, before he became president, and then they took power, overthrew President Mobutu. So Rwanda, we have seen that throughout the years, that Rwanda has had that intention of controlling Congolese politics, of making sure that they have a friendly government in the DRC, that can just essentially say yes to all their demands. And we've seen that the biggest area of influence now is the army because of that integration, but also we have seen that throughout the years that some of those rebels, they end up in government, right? But when they end up in government, then they're not loyal to the DRC government. They go and report to the Rwandans. So this is ongoing. As we speak now, Rwanda is still, by using rebels, and having some of those rebels in the government, it's a way for them to maintain control of Congolese government, Congolese politics.
So for our viewers to understand exactly what we are talking about, when we say these rebels, right, are these Rwandan rebels or Congolese rebels that are asking for these positions into government, for them to go into the Congolese army? Are these Rwandan rebels or Congolese rebels?
It's so tricky, but that's a good question, right? So most of those people, right, like they've lived in the DRC, but I think you can call them as they had a dual citizenship, right? Like the most of them live like within the border, and then it's a mix. It's some of the rebels are people that have been involved in Congo. They're 100% Congolese, and some of them are Rwandans that have lived in the DRC. Because remember, Anna, that the Tutsi, going back to history, the Tutsi actually, when they in the 1960s, when the Hutu were in power in Rwanda, the Tutsi actually came to DRC because they were marginalized and they were discriminated against. So they came to some of those Tutsis, they've lived in the DRC for their whole life. And then, they've, really, they've been in Congolese society. So it's a mix of the Tutsis that have been living in the DRC for years, and then some Congolese that are also involved for economic, we'll talk about this eventually, economic or financial gains or benefits.
I know based on the history you just told us, right? The Tutsis were first marginalized before the Hutus. So it seems like a revenge war that is going on. Hopefully that will end, because at the end of the day, this is what I always say, tribal war is so bad. Tribal war is unhealthy because you end up killing your own child, you end up killing your own wife, you end up killing your own neighbors because you guys are not from the same tribe. And this is what we are trying to I'm going to try to put Sierra Leone in there a little bit. We are trying to sensitize our own country. We use Rwanda as an example that tribal war is not good, because I might be married to somebody who's not from my tribe, right? And then now there is the war. There's this poison in our heart, the poison in our minds, and I want to kill people. So it's like revenge war that is going on. Hutus were marginalized, and now Hutus came and start killing the Tutsis, and Tutsis are killing the Hutus. So this is the reason why I believe the Tutsis are going after the Hutus in the DRC, which is really wrong. It's a wrong principle for governance, you know. But anyway, hopefully history will not repeat itself again in that country, and hopefully the war that is going on in the DRC, we hope that international communities can come together and try to end these wars. But the reason why, like we said, economic reasons why wars can never end in Africa, I'm going to use the word never, it's because of our resources, Neil. You know, it's because of these resources that we have. But before we go to the resources, let me ask you this question, right? What is the stance of the international community, including the US, on the Congo War, and what are they going to do to help you guys?
Yeah, it's very unfortunate, Anna, because what Mr. Kagame is doing now is it's not really different from what Putin is doing in Ukraine. Well,
I will not be far-fetched though.
Well, because it's not different, right? Like, you know, to answer your question, again, the international community stance on this issue has been ambivalent, not very clear, right? We have a number of UN resolutions condemning Rwanda and Uganda, or at least recognizing their involvement in this conflict. You know, we have those reports, but then what's lacking here is, and when the UN recognizes Rwandan and Uganda involvement, you know,
I was going to ask you before you go. I was going to ask you about Uganda, because I read a report that Rwanda and Uganda actually invaded Congo.
Right. Yeah. So Uganda played a role, but of course Rwanda was playing a leading role in all of this, and Uganda joined. But again, to answer your question, so we have a number of UN resolutions that have recognized their involvement, Rwandan and Uganda involvement in the war in the DRC. But what's lacking here, or what's missing, is action. You know, we have had reports, we have had resolutions, but you know, we have seen that, you know, those are just dead letters, right? Like there's no action following the findings from those reports. And that's what's very, very unfortunate. So the stance is ambivalent, it's not clear. We have reports, but we don't have actions.
Correct. And when you talk about actions, right, let's now go to our own African countries. What are they actually doing or how are they helping curb this war in Congo, in DRC? Is any African country stepping forward to actually intervene on bringing peace between these two countries?
Yes, what I'll say is that, and also Africa as a continent, or the African countries, they should be playing a leading role in negotiations and peace agreements. But what we have seen is that it seems like the whole Africa, or most of Africa, is in trouble, right? Like, I'm sorry to say this, Anna, but like, if you want to help your neighbor, then you have to make sure that you yourself have the ability, right? Like, you know, you can't ask someone who has problems to come help you with, you know, this big issue. Like, you know, it's you know, most of the government in Africa, I mean, especially West Africa, has been unstable for recent years,
for decades.
Yeah. I mean, you know, so and that doesn't help. But we have seen, Anna, that the African Union has tried to lead some of the peace talks between the DRC and the rebels, between the DRC and Rwanda. I think one of the most notable one is the one in Ethiopia, the peace talk in Ethiopia. I think it was done in 2012 or 2013. Ethiopia really played a leading role in initiating or conducting or facilitating the peace agreement between the DRC and Rwanda. And I think it was in Addis, it was the Addis Ababa peace agreement.
Okay.
But then, Anna, so most important thing is that there's no implementation, right? You can sign those peace agreements, but if there's no mechanism to track or enforce those peace agreements, then those peace agreements become useless.
Yeah.
So we have seen some initiatives on the part of African nations, but there's just no follow-up, no implementation, no action on that regard.
Yeah, so in West Africa, we have the ECOWAS, right? Where, when the war was going on in Sierra Leone, they went and intervened. They went and tried to subdue these rebels. Nigerians were there for the most part that we saw through ECOWAS. And then they did what they could at that time. And then I believe most people say they saved them. I can reserve my own comment for that. But because I was there, I witnessed the war from when it started to the day we flee to Guinea, just like we were just talking about the neighboring countries. We actually flee to Guinea when our war was going on. But I have one more last question. But before we go to that question, I want us to delve into the economic aspect of this, the resources and all those things. Based on what I know, I heard that DRC have coltan, and they have different resources that they use to make batteries, cell phones, and all that. But one of your resources that I'm familiar with more is the coltan. That now I based on research, based on what I learned in school, that Rwanda is actually exporting coltan. How is that? Because that is not their resource. How are they able to export coltan from DRC?
Yeah, Anna, that's the irony of history now. Like you look at Rwandan economic or natural resources or economic potential, you don't see all those minerals. They don't have them. But now they're becoming one of the biggest producer of coltan, gold and diamond, and you ask yourself, like, how do you get that? And then there's no clarity on how they are able to obtain acquire those minerals. All we know is that they're now producing them, so which is concerning. But to your point, the DRC has huge economic potential, and that the economic potential, including the natural resources, the minerals, they account for about 17% of the world's rough diamond, and over 30% of the world's cobalt. So they come from the DRC. So
cobalt is one that I read about too.
Yes. Yeah, so that's huge. So you have coltan, you have 70% of world diamond, over 30% of the world cobalt. That's huge. That's huge economic potential for the DRC. So then in 2002, there was a report by the UN actually linking exploitation of minerals, the illegal exploitation of minerals, to linking that to the armed conflict, the war that has been going in the Congo. And if you read that report, it says that the findings are that the rebels are trying to maintain, to occupy territories that now becoming production sites for all those minerals. And we don't know. And that's where we don't have any data. We don't have much information about what are those corporations or multinational corporations that are coming to get those minerals in the DRC. We know that Rwanda now is producing those minerals, but how? We don't know. But the UN was able to confirm that that the rebels are now working with Rwanda and Uganda and directly with some corporations on this illegal exploitation of minerals. And also I've talked about the UN resolutions. One of the most notable UN resolutions, Resolution 1856, and that was executed, or that was signed, issued in 2008. And then that resolution, to actually put the lengthy resolution, but the resolution again in 2008 confirmed the link between armed conflict and violence, and the link between that and the exploitation of minerals. And that report was asking for the world, all countries that are part of the United Nations, to make sure that they're not facilitating the exploitation of minerals, the illegal exploitation of minerals in the DRC, flagging that to everyone, bringing that to the attention of the world, of the United Nations. But then, as I said, no follow-up, no action, no implementation mechanism, no tracking mechanism. So, it's, these are things that are just, that stay on the report, and they're actually not being used, for to benefit the DRC.
It seems any country who has valuable natural resource will never have a peaceful nation, because they always cause unrest in those countries. Sierra Leone is one of them. We have one of the cleanest diamond in the world. Do you see that? So we have all these resources. We have water, we have diamond, we have gold. You know we are bound for those conflicts, because like you said, the multinational corporations are coming in to take those things by force, because to me, it's like taking it by force. If you want to come into somebody's country, why not just sign contract and all those things? Why bring unrest? Because innocent people are actually dying. People I've never seen a raw diamond in my life, and I'm from a country that produces the most cleanest diamond in the world, one of the countries, And then we innocent people were the ones who died during the war from 1991 or 1990 to 2002. Do you see that? People who have never ever seen clean diamond in their lives, who were dying. If you saw the movie Blood Diamond, it's a true story based on our war conflict in Sierra Leone. So with that being said, my last question that I have for you today is, what can or should be done at the international and regional level to stop the war in DRC? What can we do? What can people do internationally, regionally, your fellow countrymen? And I know you are trying your best, because you're trying to bring awareness to these particular issues that is going on into the country. And I'm very appreciative that you called, you wanted me to interview you for this, which I've been observing myself. I've been very interested in the development of Rwanda, actually. And I wanted to know how this country is developing and why the international community is taking Rwanda as an example of, peace, as they say, So I've been monitoring, and I've been actually monitoring the DRC war as well. Couple of, like I explained to you earlier, a couple of months ago, I saw the demonstration, going on, people demanding that the Rwanda government should leave DRC, So what can what do you want? Like, what do you guys want people to do? Actually, how do you want us to come in, the international community to come in and help? What can
Yes.
people do? Yeah.
Yeah, very good question. So one thing that I wanted to note here is that Rwanda, because there are countless, there's so many reports showing that Rwanda is involved in this in the Congo War. And one of the justification that Rwanda has put forth is that they're coming to the DRC, or at least they're involved in the conflict, because the DRC is supporting the Hutu refugees. The Hutu refugees, they've formed a you can call them a rebel group. It's called the FDLR. Yeah. So that's the Hutu rebel group. So basically, Rwanda is saying that these Hutu refugees, they're still posing threats to us, the Tutsi, the Rwandan government, so that, and then the DRC government is supporting them. Then we need to make sure that we are neutralizing them, we are eliminating that threat, and that's how they're involved. But we all know, Anna, that there are also reports from the UN showing that the Hutu refugees, the FDLR, they do not pose any threat to the Tutsi regime, the Rwandan. Most of them actually have already disbanded. It's only like, it's a very small group now. And the DRC government multiple times has asked Rwanda, come get them back to Rwanda, because that's where they belong, right? But Rwanda is playing a very double game, a very dangerous game, justifying its involvement in this conflict because of the Hutus. And everyone knows that, this is not true, based on actual report, right? Not just allegations from Congolese or from the Congolese government. So what do we want? International level, a good example is what happened. Again, it's not good example, but what's happening now in Ukraine, right? We have seen how the international community came united together, condemning Putin, condemning Russia for that invasion. I think the same thing can be done for Congo, because, as I said, Anna, this is very serious. This is the deadliest conflict since World War II. It's serious. It's a serious matter. So the same attitude, the same stance, the same action that the international community, led by the United States, they took, those actions that they took for Ukraine, for Ukrainians or Ukraine, that's the same that we're asking in the DRC. Condemn Rwanda. If you want to help the Congolese government to make sure that they have the resources, they have the ability, the capacity, the military equipment to go ahead and subdue, to defeat the rebels, please do so. The same way they're helping Ukraine, right? So that's what we're asking. And then stop playing that game with Rwanda, because, as you said, Rwanda now, they're being praised for the economic development, but we all know that that economic development is being it's a result of their involvement in this deadliest, bloodiest conflict. So we need to make sure, we need to make the narrative very clear that Rwanda is not economically stable or developed because of, I don't know if they have those natural resources, or because of because President Kagame is the smartest. No, it's because of their involvement, their illegal exploitation of minerals in the Congo, and we need to condemn them firmly. And also, last thing, at the national level, as I stated earlier, corruption, bad governance, it's almost endemic in the whole continent. But this is serious because our own people are dying, right? Like, and this is where the national government responsibility comes to play, because we need good governance. Good governance. We need to eliminate corruption. We need to make sure that the army is well equipped. The army, all the resources that are allocated to the army They're not being taken by individuals for their own benefit. So corruption, eliminate corruption, put in place good governance, and that's the responsibility for the national government, but also for all of us, for our viewers watching us. Please raise awareness. Might not be from the DRC, but this is really affecting our continent, the African continent. It's also affecting humanity, because we have lost 5 million human beings, just like you and I. So it's serious. As I said, the deadliest conflict since World War II.
Thank you, Neil. But to your point that you made, that the US should, or the international community should come to the aid of Congo like they did Ukraine, might be far-fetched, because African countries have suffered numerous wars, death, and we have seen where the international community ignored, and you know, I'm not sure what is up with them, that they feel like African lives don't matter, or Black people don't matter, but you go into our continent and take our resource. We're all seeing how the support for Ukraine is serious, it's massive, but Cameroon is asking for the same as you guys are asking, because there's an unrest in Cameroon right now. There is an unrest in Congo. We have seen South Sudan going through the same conflict for decades, you know, and instead of them intervening as they're doing for Ukraine, like you said, you guys don't have the machinery, the weaponry to even confront Rwanda. You know, so why is, like you said, why is the international community not intervening into African conflicts, not just Congo, but into African conflicts? Maybe that is the question we should leave with our viewers today, so that they can, you know, maybe put a comment when we post this video. Just write their comments and tell us, why is the international communities not coming together to actually defend our own continent as they do the European countries? So thanks, Neil, for coming here today, and I really appreciate you, you know, calling me so that we can shed light on what's going on into the DRC war, you know.
No, thank you. It was my pleasure. Please help us spread the word about this very unfortunate conflict, and then please help us raise awareness. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Neil.
Yeah.